Well, hello, and welcome to the Nursing and Style podcast. Here, we represent a bold, restorative space for nurse leaders, entrepreneurs, and healthcare professionals who are ready to lead with intention and not exhaustion. We have honest conversations about leadership, growth, mindset, and decisions that shape the life you're becoming and not just the titles you hold. This is where ambition meets integrity, where purpose meets strategy, and where you are empowered to lead your best life professionally, personally, and unapologetically. Today, we're going to be talking about culture is the currency, building healthcare organizations where nurses want to stay, lead, and thrive. Today, I want you all to go and click on the little bell to get your notifications, like and follow Nursing and Style Podcast here on YouTube. Follow us on LinkedIn and on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, you name it, we're there. Today, our conversation is one that every healthcare leader needs to hear. We're talking about culture, not as a buzzword, but as a strategic currency that determines whether nurses stay, lead, thrive within your organizations. So, joining us today is Jordan VanName, RN, founder and lead consultant of FusionIQ Nursing Solutions. Jordan is a seasoned healthcare leader with nearly 2 decades of frontline clinical experience, spanning high acuity burn and trauma care, specialty nursing, home infusion, and specialty pharmacy operations. Through her work, she's helped healthcare organizations bridge gaps between clinical excellence, operational efficiencies, and sustainable leadership. Jordan founded Fusion IQ after witnessing firsthand how fragmented systems and poor leadership alignment contribute to burnout, inefficiencies, and disengaged teams. Her mission centers on creating cohesive, people centered systems where nurses are supported, leaders are equipped, and organizations can grow with integrity. Jordan, welcome to Nursing and Style Podcast. I'm so honored to have you here, and I'm looking forward to the discussion. The talk is always, we can't find nurses, right? We can't find nurses, we can't keep nurses. And I always say, nurses know nurses, and nurses go where they feel love and where they feel supported. They will invite their other nurses to come and work for you. So if you have nurses not wanting to come work over there, might be something going on. So, to start us off, can you share a bit about your journey in healthcare leadership and what led you to focus so deeply on culture?
Yes, so thank you for having me today, and I'm excited to speak about this. My journey in administration kind of landed in my lap, I guess you could say. I started with a move to Florida, so brand new location. And when I moved here, I had to learn quickly how to transition from being that field nurse in the field to helping others. And that's where I realized that I was in a really good spot, that I was supported by management who saw something in me to bring me into leadership and have me continue to advance. And what I learned from that was they saw something in me and they wanted to keep me, and they really inspired me to continue to lead that way. So I started with good leadership, and I had good mentors in the beginning. That led me to continue on that journey today, and that's what has really sparked this. Is I know that nurses have a hard time learning the ropes, and getting into home infusion is not always super easy to do. And so I think it's important that as administrators, we're looking at that and seeing who can we bring on, who culturally fits, our vibe for our company.
Yeah. And you mentioned having great leaders in the beginning. That kind of sets the tone. Because once you set that tone, if you get anything less than that, it's an eye opener moment. And being the boss that you want to have as a boss is important to kind of mirror what you want to see happening for you. So, when you hear the phrase culture is the currency, what does that mean in the context of today's healthcare organization? What is culture is the currency? What is that?
Saying culture is the currency, especially in home infusion, what I mean by that is culture is what organizations are actually spending every day, whether they realize it or not. In home infusion, we can't always rely on consistent oversight, because we're asking our nurses to deliver high quality care to patients that are high risk. And when we do that, we need to invest time in knowing our employees. They will grow and thrive in this business if you give them that respect.
So how can a new leader, I love our world, home infusion world. How can a new leader, let's say in our space, home infusion, do that? How can they? I mean, we're so busy. We got so much going on with having the staff. We got all of these changes. We're dealing with pharmacy. How do we build or get to know our? What are the little nugget things that we can begin to do that?
I think really allowing, I always like to think of everyone as my team members because I'm no better than my team members. I know what they're doing, they know what I'm doing. I feel more as the advocate. And so, what I think as a field nurse may be out there to make them feel that they are heard, we need to hear what challenges are being met, having the availability to talk to these nurses, giving them clear expectations and what to do. It's easy to say, here's your patient, go and do whatever you need to do. But things pop up and they need to know who at my job am I contacting if something happens. We need to not live in the if world, but
Mhm,
things do pop up as nurses. That's why we're there. So knowing how to direct these nurses to the right people so that they can feel understood and
mhm.
also tell us what's happening out there. I feel the newest thing that I hear from field nurses is, patients having cameras. They're all over. We're not getting away from that, right? Um, I have them too. But, questions that I hear nurses talking about is, at what point is their privacy being invaded? Or are they doing anything wrong? And so these are things that I think as administrators, we have to listen and hear what they're saying and how do we help them be prepared for that and getting in front of it. If we have
Mhm.
this being mentioned and we know that it's happening, everybody has a Ring doorbell. How are we getting in front of that?
Yes, you're going to be recorded, people. All right. So listening, providing that support, recognizing technology is changing rapidly. And so I know a lot of people that says, I don't have social media. I don't want to be on social media. Well, you can be going to the grocery store and somebody got a camera up and they might be recording the scene. So you are likely on somebody's video, whether you like it or not. And so we are dealing with this. And I believe that agencies have to really think about policies around how do they handle that, because patients will want to sit there and record everything that you're doing. So nurses always have to be conscious. I always say operate as if a camera is on you.
That
Just
is
act
right.
like there's a camera that's up there that could be up there watching you. And so how would you perform? Always act as though a camera is on you. And I think if you do that, you're going to always produce the best work because that's what you should be at all times. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Let's see. So, on the daily basis, from your experience, what does a healthy nurse center culture look like in daily practice? Not just policies, not just mission statements. I mean, I've heard some very cliche mission statements like, we're the place you want to work. And you walk through the door and you can feel the tension in there. So, on a daily practice, what does a good, healthy culture look like?
In home infusion, it looks to have nurses knowing exactly who to call and actually getting that support when something feels off, whether we're directing them somewhere else or we're handling it for them. And I think even if we leave it, since we're in the home infusion space, when we're talking about pharmacies, pharmacies want to ensure you're working. I would say definitely make sure you have an ACHC agency or one that's looking to move that way, and that their policies align with INS and IGNS standards, and that the time, the tools, supplies, all of that is expected from that agency. So that way they know that that culture is there because
Mhm.
they have those standards. Now their agency has that standard. They should know, we get our referrals from pharmacies and physicians. It's important that, our nurses know exactly what to do. We can explain that clearly. If somebody asks right then, hey, patient's having a reaction, what do you do? And that nurse has to second guess. I feel that we failed as leadership at that point. If they question what do they do, in case there's something that's going on. And so I think it's important that leadership understands the reality of that field work.
So knowing who to call. So I'm happy you point that out. In home infusion nursing, it's like remote workers, right? For people that work for large insurance company, remote working, feeling like they're on an island, not knowing who to call. I mean, I've heard this as I've gone in and supported organizations. And so having that sense of support, having that sense of knowledge and education, as long as I've been in the infusion world, it still makes me cringe when I hear people say, I don't know what the what's INS standards? What is that? I'm like, what? And you're giving infusions? What's IGNS standards? What? And you administering IVIG products, right? And you don't know these things. And so it always kind of, freaks me out a little bit that we have people who are out here that don't realize that they're going to be measured against these things if, their records land in court for whatever reason. So having the knowledge, having the support, knowing that they can call someone. So if they feel like they're boxed in or don't know someone, I can call my leader. And so being able to call my leader makes me feel like I have a sense of support. I would have to agree with that because I've heard it over and over from the workforce when people feel like they know who to call. So, those of you leaders that are watching this, make sure you do an assessment. Do your people know who to call? When they call, do they feel like they get an answer? Or do they feel like their emails sit unanswered for days? That's another sign that you may be creating a toxic work culture. Okay. So thank you, Jordan. What are the most common signs that a workplace culture has become toxic, even if leadership believe things are functioning well? I've heard this too. Oh, we're doing great.
Mhm. So I hear this a lot myself, and I think it's is what you would define as quiet compliance. Um, it,
Quiet compliance. Let that marinate.
yes,
What does that mean?
that is just where they're just making it work. Nurses stop escalating and they just make it work. I don't like the word "I'm making it work" or "work around" because it really derails the situation. And so I think it's important that if people are not bringing issues to you, you need to check your culture because there's some reason they don't want to bring an issue to you. Other things that happen when it's toxic is you start normalizing near misses or unsafe workarounds,
Mhm.
and also your documentation starts slipping. Those nurses, they're hesitant to turn it in. Same can be said, I do feel a lot of times that we kind of have a little overzealous on our documentation. We all need to document, but how we approach, our field nurses is important because they need to know that they're supported. And if they feel they're being penalized versus being educated, there could be a huge miss there. And that could also be a sign of toxic environment. And maybe it's only you're just trying to do your job. But if that's how you feel, you need to make sure nurses are communicating with nurses. We owe each other the same mutual respect.
Yes, yes. You gave out a lot of great nuggets there. And what this reminds me of? Relationships, right? Intimate relationships when a person's kind of had enough, that compliance, that silent compliance thing, they just kind of unattached, right? Just I'm just in the motions, just until I get my exit, I'm here. This is why all of a sudden you think that you have a good culture and you have a nurse that's a great nurse that just throw up the sign. I quit. Like I'm giving you my 2 weeks notice. This is what happens. So it's usually a disengagement that's happening before that notice actually comes forward. And so having a good exit interview will give you some insight on what's happening in your culture. So
Yeah.
good nuggets there. All right. So how does leadership intentionally or unintentionally contribute to the creation or continuation of an unhealthy work environment?
Oh, I see this uh, expanding, especially as we evolve. And the reason why I see some of this expanding and why I want to squash it is because you get this through misalignment and fear based leadership.
Mm.
Leadership isn't for everybody. And making decisions without, frontline input, that's not a good sign. Statements that I have heard throughout my career are, well, they can get on board with my decision, but I'm not discussing it. You're the
Ooh.
leader. Discuss it. Hear it. They're staffing, they're seeing patients. They're here for you. Hear what they have to say. Also, sending mixed messages between what your stated values are and your actual actions. You have that written everywhere. As a business owner, you need to hold true to your values and make sure that they are clear. Avoiding difficult conversations. I think this happens to a lot of nurses in the hospital, out of the hospital, everywhere. They encounter difficult conversations. For example, I myself have once brought up an issue that needed immediate attention.
Mhm.
We're not derailing. And when
Mhm.
I told what was happening, instead of addressing the concern, I got a raise. So
That's a little confusing. Okay.
So where do we go as a nurse, right? We're
Uh-huh.
what? I was talking about a problem and I got a raise for a problem. So I was very confused, but not going back to that. And when it was re-brought up, it was, well, let's not talk about that. Let's try to move forward. That makes people feel uneasy. That's not the
Mhm.
culture that you want. You
Mhm.
want your leaders to hear you. You want them to know, because most of the time our intentions are true. We want everybody to feel what we feel, and we want them to feel like we're the best company out there. And if
Mhm.
your staff feels like we're the best company out there, they will prove it to you and they will show it, because the things that they bring to you are not for complaints, but they're for value. They're to make you better.
Ah, so that person that keeps knocking on your door with the new ideas? Some people, if you're not secure in yourself, may look at that as she's trying to tell me how to do my job, or he's trying to tell me how to do my job. And so I often say, leaders, you got to check in. You got to check in with yourself. Make sure you have some strong emotional IQ, so that you can lead and see the things that you need to see. You gave a lot of nuggets there, a lot of nuggets that you would drop in there for current leaders and new leaders stepping into this role. So that was amazing. How many leaders that step into the roles where the culture is already broken? What challenges do they face, and how can organizations better support them? Because a lot of times when you're going into a role that's really already broken, they've already had leaders. It's like a turning door coming in and coming out. A lot of times the top people can't help you because they could be a part of the problem. So, what advice would you give a new leader going into a broken culture? What can they do to kind of help turn this culture around?
Well, that starts with the top. If you have toxic leadership, I think the first thing you have to do is admit that something is off and something isn't right.
Hmm.
Talk to all of those frontline employees, talk to the field nurses, talk to your administration staff, talk to your other leaders. Where did we go wrong here? We have to admit some fault in that. So at that point, I think it's important that once you have that, you find the right mentors, find the right coaching, whether that's internally or externally, find it so that you can start to change that culture. Give the new leaders that come in, give them some authority to address behaviors. Hear them. Don't just give them tasks to fix things. Let them try to address that culture so that you don't lose anybody else. And the ones who are there, maybe you lost employees who were excellent. Let's see if we can bring those back. And to bring them back, something we're going to have to do there is admit that we were wrong and remember what their value was and make sure it aligns with where we are at currently. See if they're up to the task. A lot of times they will be. If they really enjoyed working there, but it was just bad culture, a lot of unclear leadership messages, and they left, if they're willing to come back, we should give them that opportunity.
Hmm. So reassessing, bringing some folks back. I like that you said give them the tools, give them the space, give them the new leader an opportunity to get the coaching that they may need, get some support that they may need, but give them that space so that they can get what they need to support and make some movements. I like to call them small wins. So if you
Mhm.
have a center, let's say we both have worked in ambulatory infusion space, home infusion space, etc., and you go in and let's say there's something broken. Well, that light's been broken. Well, let's get a win and fix that light, right? Let's jump some hurdles and get some things fixed. hear some of the early signs of complaints and see what you can do to get a quick solve. Because if you can come in and get a quick solve on things and those little early wins, that's going to help to build some trust, so that your new team can begin to trust you and you can start to turn this culture around. I think some of the other things that you highlighted is listen to the people. If you just start listening to the people and the people feel heard, you can begin to turn this thing around little by little. So, good nuggets there. So, I think in so many senses you've answered this, but let's get direct. Do you believe a toxic culture can truly be repaired? If so, what must leaders be willing to do differently to make that happen? So, can a toxic culture really be repaired?
So, yes, it can be repaired. I think we just started. The biggest thing is going to be acknowledging that you had the problem,
Mm,
and that you're willing to fix it. And right behind that, I would say is going ahead and letting your team know that you're not all being replaced. We're making these moves because we want to improve, and there's going to be some short-term discomfort so that we can have long-term stability. I think if you can do that, you're on the path to success at that point.
I like it. I like it. I like it. So cultures can be repaired, you all. Your cultures can be repaired. Acknowledge it. Some people just say, "Oh, we just got to get rid of a few apples." Not always. Sometimes we got to clean the whole thing out, right? And then reset. It's kind of like mold. So we just gonna put a little layer of paint on that mold. At some point, that mold gonna come right on back through. We gonna see it again, right? And so a lot of organizations do what I call paint repair on mold, improper painting on the mold. No, you got to get to the source. And sometimes it could be you, the big leader. Sometimes it could be your words are mixed matching. It's kind of like the parents that says, "Do as I say, not as I do." Well, we have learned, us 70 babies have learned that don't work. That don't work. We're gonna do just what you're doing. Okay. So if you're showing up late to these meetings, we gonna start showing up late to these meetings. And so leaders have to lead by examples, to help to show that culture. It's kind of like your mom says, Jordan, clean your room before you go to school every morning. Make sure your room is clean. And then you go in her room and it ain't never clean. How motivated you gonna be to keep your room clean if your mama room ain't never clean and she seemed to be doing just fine, right? This is no different. So a lot of the things that happen at a foundational level at home, it's the same thing that can carry into work. And so we got to think about this as we're building businesses and creating businesses or doing a leader changeover. Is what you're saying matching your actions? Does it line up? Right?
Correct.
Yeah, yes. I like to say, I'm not going to say what I was going to say. I like to drive cars that go fast. And every now and then, I want to test and see if that number is it going to do that, right? And there are certain parts of town where they are really good in policing those areas, and you're going to get a ticket, right? And because they police those areas periodically, I'm a little bit more cautious in those areas, right? And so with
Right.
organizations that doesn't have good stop systems, good stop points, um, people gonna tend to test that number on the dial. We gonna go on back because no, they don't really be there. So organizations that check in with their leaders, that check in with their cultures from time to time, you're going to tend to have more things that's going to be revealed and fixed quicker, and people kind of doing the things that we want to do in our mission and in our culture. But if you're not doing some stay interviews and doing some check-ins, people are going to kind of run that thing the way they don't run that thing. They're going to have some bad habits. You're going to pull up some lids and find out you got some pretty bad things going on in your company. So
Yes.
I love it. So, what are some of the biggest myths about company cultures that prevent real change in healthcare organizations?
Ooh. Well, you know, when you're doing this, you got to make sure that you understand that nurses talk. um,
Ooh, nurses
so
talk? What they talk about?
we
Nurses talk.
chat.
What do you mean?
We love to chat. I do notice that we have, I did a little bit of research on this,
Hmm.
and nursing turnover can cost a company between 40,000 and 64,000 for the year. So there is potential. I mean, that's a lot of money, and that's for one nurse.
Mm.
So when you're losing these nurses, and I'm talking about through all the spaces that, I help, cater to,
Mm-hmm.
that could be a patient and not just their one patient. Sometimes they got 15, 20 patients. You lose
Mm-hmm.
all of them
Yeah.
because those patients are dedicated to those nurses.
Yeah.
That's their family. Same with, in an infusion suite, you can't afford to have a bad reputation.
No.
We need that good reputation because it backs up that if we have a good reputation and we're with our staff, those patients are going to keep coming back. And they're going to tell their friends who get infusion, and
Mhm.
they're going to go on social media and tell all their groups that they're on, hey, this is my new infusion suite. This is what's happening. So we want to
That's
make sure that that culture is there so that it continues to grow. Just because it's okay, can
good.
you afford to lose one nurse at 40,000? That even at its lowest, can you afford that? It's a
Yeah.
lot.
You just gave another nugget. Your patients could also be an insight to what your culture is like. Because if patients don't want to go back to centers, why? Right? What's going on? If and this can be in home settings, this can be in ambulatory infusion settings, this could be in emergency rooms, doctors' offices, several different areas. Really, your patients, your clients will kind of tell you the story about your culture. They'll tell you what it's really like. And I like to say, be an undercover boss in your own business. From time to time, call it after hours number. See what's really
Mhm.
happening. Yep. Pretend to be a patient, give them a call, let them know you have a problem. See how long it takes for a nurse to call back. See what's their attitude when they call back. See how they handle things when they call back. You got to do some randoms. Remember, I told you the certain parts of town that little
Yeah.
cop be there from time to time? I know that. So, what I'm likely going to do, I'm going to act right. Right?
Mhm.
It is what it is. People don't do what you expect, they do what you inspect. So, time to time, put those inspection points. So, Jordan, this has been super insightful. We're going to wrap up and I'm going to ask you, how can nurses at all levels, not just executives, play a role in shaping and sustaining a healthy workplace culture? So, everybody have to do their part. What can we do?
Yes, I think it's modeling clinical integrity and respect, supporting peers instead of competing with your peers, and speaking up for safety and ethics, holding each other and your leadership accountable. Those are all non negotiables for me.
Mhm.
Um, when I know my employees, I know them, I know their kids, I know their dreams, because I need to know how that person can later inspire this company further. Are they going to turn out to be a nurse for me? Do I have somebody who's got a college kid who's in nursing school? Guess what? There's a new possible potential employee. It's very important that we know what's happening with our staff. It's very important that we stay close to them, because just because they're in one position doesn't mean that one day they're not sitting with you in administration and learning and modeling exactly what you did. So I think it's important that we continue to hold these clinical integrity and ethics to the highest standard. And if we feel they're going off the rails, let's come together and figure out a solution.
I love it. So, tell me, if there's a company out here, home infusion, home health, ambulatory infusion centers, ambulatory pharmacy centers that are struggling. They are struggling with their culture. They're struggling with keeping nurses. They're struggling with referral sources. How? Tell me more about Fusion IQ Nursing Solutions, and what do you all do to help to support that? And how do
Yes.
people get in touch with you?
Yes. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and also I have a Google site as well. So you can find me on any of those. And I also have a direct line as well for you to call or text. And I would encourage people to at least give me a call. Let's talk about it. I often find that people don't know that there's an issue until we start looking at everything. And it doesn't always have to do with culture. Sometimes your culture is beautiful and I love it and I want to continue to grow on it. There can be other ways. It could be your policies. You don't know how to implement them, you don't know how to get them out. Maybe it's your referral pipeline. I consider myself an expert. If you send me that referral, I am looking through it. I'm identifying the best nurse possible, and it is wrapped up within 15, 30 minutes. I'm ready. I can transform referrals for you. Let's do that. And if it's more along the lines of growth, maybe you're ready to accelerate. You've overhired, you have all these great nurses, but you don't know how to get them work. I can help you there. Maybe it's your contracts. Let's look at that. So I would be very, very happy to talk with anybody just as a discovery, or even if you want to learn more about me, feel free to book a call. I'd be happy to discuss.
All right. Well, you all heard it here. We are so thankful for your time. We're thankful for the connection. Culture is the currency. Get into your culture, do your assessment, do a cultural assessment and see where you are, and then get the help that you need. It's been fantastic seeing you all. Have a great day. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Bye bye.